Sports fans, haters, and beautiful women. Welcome to this edition of Court Vision, brought to you by War Room Sports in conjunction with Sports Kings. I'm your host at JW The Blueprint. That's on Twitter and Instagram. Around the round table this evening, I have Andy from the Sports Kings. What's going on, Andy?
Yo, props to my boy Boogie Cousins, because shaking hands with the opposition after the game is way overrated and soft.
Shout out to Boogie Cousins. Absolutely. B. Austin, what's up, good brother?
Yo, following in the theme of shout-outs, shout out to Channing Frye. Actually, he made an appearance in the paint this evening versus the Orlando. Yo, he made an appearance in the paint. And on top of that, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was making you believe that Channing Frye, Brian Shaw, and Dwight Howard are over 6'4".
Brian Shaw. Anyway, Frank, what's going on? Frank from the Sports Kings is in the building.
Man, shout out to Tyshawn Taylor, the best point guard on the Brooklyn Nets right now.
Man, the Brooklyn Nets. Listen.
Don't do that.
Listen, this will be a short episode, but there are things that we have to touch on, pause, this week in the NBA. You brought up the Brooklyn Nets. Let's talk about basketball in New York City, right? Because both teams right now are struggling, in the words of Joe Namath. I'm going to start with Andy. What's going on with Brooklyn? Let's start talking about Brooklyn first, and Jason Kidd, the coach, if that's what he does.
I had Jason Kidd's back when he was first hired, and a lot of people, everybody was saying it was too soon and he couldn't do it without at least getting that assistant coach gig first. And, I kind of, it's Jason Kidd. I mean, my eyes were wide. Jason Kidd's one of those guys I watched as a young man. And, and I thought if anybody could make the leap, it would be him. We saw Mark Jackson do it with the limited experience in that. And I don't know. And they brought in Paul Pierce and KG, and it's just not working. I mean, some of it's got to do with injuries, Deron Williams, Brooke Lopez, two very irreplaceable guys. But at this point, it looks like Joe Johnson, the only one that's balling out there as far as their starters go. Pierce and KG, I mean, I don't even really know what effect they're having on a full 48 minutes at this point.
Yo, KG just doesn't even play. He's like an old head at the playground who just runs up and down and doesn't really do anything, sets a pick every once in a while. That's not KG. That's not KG.
He's just getting his cardio in.
Yo, yeah, that's all he's doing. He's just a workout for him right now.
Getting the cardio and getting the check. Yo,
getting the cardio and a nice check. This is Frank. This is your team, by the way, right?
This is my team. This happened in real life. I'm not even making this story up. KG got bullied in the paint by Bismack Biyombo. Like, on 2 straight possessions.
Yo, I'm better than Bismack.
The Nets are complete.
Go ahead, Frank.
So, here's the thing. Jason Kidd is my favorite NBA player of all time. Like, I became a fan of basketball because of Jason Kidd.
You're Michael Jordan. You said that.
Right, he's my MJ.
Point guard ever.
So, I'm not going to slander Jason Kidd. But I'm just going to agree with every single point you guys make when you slander Jason Kidd. I'm just going to sit here and take it.
Well, listen. Let me real quick. This is sad to me on so many levels because I definitely respect Jason Kidd. Watched him play at Cal. I'm showing my age. But and he was supposed to be the next Magic Johnson. I love the way the guy played. Jason Kidd is arguably one of the top 5 point guards of all time. The argument can be made. But this is a travesty right now. Watching him try to coach. Watching KG, who was also, a player, watch his whole career, and watching him just struggle. He does nothing anymore. Paul Pierce is just out there shooting. It's just terrible. It's just terrible to watch because they got a lot of veterans.
Paul Pierce takes so many bad shots. He takes so many bad shots.
It's
ridiculous.
And it's like watching this is definitely it's difficult to watch because on paper, when you look at the lineup, you would think that they'd be one of the top teams in the East. But when you watch them play, yo. And I was talking to B. Austin. I remember this B. Austin a couple weeks ago. He was like, well, the Nets will be there. And we keep saying that, but now I'm starting to think, maybe they won't be there. You know what I mean? Everybody thinks that they'll get it together and they'll be there by the end of the season. They keep playing like this.
When I said be there, I was giving myself a wide error of margin, meaning they will make the playoffs. Now, what seed, whether that's 3 or 8,
that can be in question, though. Even that can be in question with the way they're playing.
Let me say that, I have shout out to Andy and Frank for being knowledgeable and knowing more than the people watching this video about basketball and still being willing to admit that they were wrong on this one. I respect that, man. Jason Kidd, as a coach, is terrible.
I don't even think he does anything. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Lawrence Frank draws up all the plays.
Yeah. Here's the challenge. Here's the difference between him and Mark Jackson. When you look at Mark Jackson, he's been away from the game long enough as a player, because I think his last season was 2004, to where he can come in the locker room and say, even though we still may listen to the same music sometimes, make no mistake, Clay and Steph, I'm your uncle. Like, I'm your uncle. Like, for real, I'm your uncle.
Word to Tech Nine. I'm your uncle.
Word to Tech Nine. Now, Jason Kidd is still shaking hands and making light with guys that he played with. So they're like, yo, you can't coach against us. Like, we don't even respect you. Like, you're Jay Kidd. Like, I just bust your ass, like, last season or something.
Yeah, but hold on, though.
I think that factors into it.
Even beyond that, Jason Kidd, like I just said, is one of the top 5. How many top players really made a great coach?
That's true. Because
Magic
they don't see the
Magic
game.
was a terrible coach. I mean, most of the great coaches are like, backup point guards for some reason are great coaches. I guess because they're floor generals and they have time to sit there and watch the game.
They learn, They got the clipboard.
Yeah, they got the clipboard and all that. You know what I mean? But how many great players are good coaches? I mean,
The only saving grace.
Larry Bird was an okay coach, though.
Yeah, he was. The only saving grace is obviously the injuries with Darren and Brooke. Specifically Brooke. I mean, I don't think people realize the impact that Brooke has on both ends of the floor. I know everybody thinks of Brooke as an offensive player, but they don't have a rim protector at all. And even though Brooke's not a great rim protector, he's an average defensive rim protector, and they don't even have that right now.
Offensively, you have a roster full of ball stoppers. Pause. Joe Johnson gets his offense best off of isolation. Paul Pierce gets his offense best off of isolation. Deron Williams, who is I'm not going to be a prisoner of the moment. I'm still going to say he's a top 10 point guard who's going through some struggle. He's struggling some challenges, but when he's at his best scoring, he gets his off of isolation. So you have guys that don't naturally move the ball around, and I don't think that it's a conscious decision to say, well, I'm the man, so I'm going to stop the ball. But it's what they've done to get their offense for so many years out of their career. So old habits die hard. They're in a position now where they need to move the ball and have motion to get buckets, and it's not working right now. It's not working on defense. I don't know what to say there. They are really challenged.
That's the real problem.
They lack a post player, though, too, without Brook Lopez. No, right. KG doesn't play in the post. He's concerned with he wants to shoot 18-footers.
Yeah, he's an 18-footer.
And Andre Blatch, you give him the ball in the post, and it's going to be a disaster.
Andre Blatch thinks he's hot sauce.
He's nuts.
You give him the ball, he just dribbles between the legs. I think he's going to put it through his jersey.
I tried to explain to you guys that I have watched Andre Blatch down here for the Wizards.
That's his name.
I've watched him, and he is a pure D clown. So I knew this was going to happen. If you don't have the discipline, if you don't have somebody to grab him by his ear and pull him down and
I think somebody did.
Cut that shit out, he is going to try and get the ball on the wing and go in and out behind the back, roll it out, Pooh Allen, catch it with the left, and then go to the rack. That's who he is.
Yeah.
He came out of the locker room looking like he got beat down the other night.
Yeah, but hold on, though. The Nets are definitely struggling, but let's go to the other side of town, the New York Knickerbockers. What's going on there? I'm going to start with you, Frank.
The Knicks, they have very similar problems in the sense that they don't have any defensive presence, and it's worse because Andre Blatch would be the best big man on the Knicks right now, including Amari Stoudemire. Even though Amari had a good night, last night I think it was, but I mean he can only play 30 seconds a game. Ugh. But I mean it's just they're defensively they're not good, and offensively, like B. Austin said, they also have ball stoppers. Carmelo, you get the ball to Carmelo, it's not coming back to you. Carmelo's keeping that ball, and he's going to shoot it.
Smith.
J.R. Smith keeping that ball, and they just have shooters.
Shout out to Earl. Y'all want the pipe?
The problem is that the Knicks, and everybody said this last season, the Knicks' success last season was almost a fluke because you can't shoot the three that consistently like they did last season, and you're finding it out this season. You just can't shoot the three like they did last season.
Now nobody can get the offensive glass either.
They don't have the other things that they did besides them just shooting the three. I think if their three-point shooting was the only issue, they still would be able to win games. They played D very well. They hit the offensive glass. Earl, I don't call him J.R. Smith. I call him Earl. Earl was doing other things other than just playing like 21 by himself out there, or 33, 35, whatever you. Yeah, he was.
But he averaged 18 though, doing it. I think something like 17 or 18 points a game, and I told everybody that was a fluke.
The real Earl is back. The real Earl is back, and I'll tell you, he's a joy to watch because I tune in to see him take one-footed left leg three-pointers from 25 feet. That's what I tune in to watch, but it has to be frustrating as a Knicks fan knowing you're going to see 6 WTF shots from Earl.
Yeah, J.R. Smith takes a lot of shots that makes you know that he's already paid. Like that he's already cashed his check at the bank.
Oh, hold on, though. He's thirsty. He just made a lot of them. He took a lot of those last year.
No doubt, Jimmy. No doubt.
My opinion of the Knicks is this, and I've said this before. I think they need a top-tier point guard and also someone who even cares about defense, because the one guy who even gave a shit about defense is no longer there. But to me, they have a lot of guys who can score, but they need someone to set up for them. I mean, look at the guys they have. They have, in my Avery Johnson voice, they got Banyani out there. He can't get his own shot.
He really pronounces it like that, too.
Yeah, I know, he really does. But if they had a point guard that could set up plays for Melo or Banyani, hey, maybe somebody like Jeremy Lin. I'm just saying, if they had someone that can create some shots for him, they would be better.
But
I'm not. This is what I'm saying. His game is conducive to what they need, though. But he does set up other people.
He only creates his own shot, though.
That's not true.
Yeah.
He went to that run. He created shots for others. That's when Novak. He was creating shots for Novak. Once he was going Novak.
Yeah, but I could create a shot for Novak because all he does is stand in the same corner.
But what I'm saying is he needs someone to draw the man away from him. Once no one's creating a shot for Novak, he's irrelevant. Novak was leading the league in threes at one point.
What you're saying when you're saying running offense and creating shots versus kickouts to Novak is kind of two different things, though. I mean, as a point guard, Jeremy Lin is definitely a go-right, pick-and-roll, single-high scoring point guard. Like, he's not a creator. They need a creator.
Creating shots for everybody when he played. He led the team in assists at the time. Look at the
that ain't hard to do, but still.
But what I'm saying,
Jeremy Lin gets to the bucket. That's the other thing.
They could use
he definitely does
right now. They have nobody that can get to the bucket.
No, they all settle for jumpers. They
need to just lift Amari's minute restriction. Whether it works or not, I don't know, but it's doing them no good having it. Let them sign a waiver, because I know it's the doctors that are keeping him out. Let Mike Woodson go in there and choke somebody. I don't know what has to happen, but he does you no good playing 10 or 12 minutes. Oh, he's terrible. All he can do is that ISO. We said this last week, but it's like Amari needs to be on the floor because you're paying the guy millions of dollars to do nothing, and he can't get. And I believe Amari when he says, I can't get in a rhythm, because if you only let me play a handful of minutes of game, I couldn't get in a rhythm either. So
you know what the worst part is with both of these teams is that they're both going to fire their coaches. I don't think Jason Kidd survives past the season, but that's not the problem. The problem's the team. The problem's the players, but both of them are going to fire their coaches.
Didn't they fire Avery with the same record?
Way to make excuses for your favorite player.
It's not going to do anything.
He's part of the problem. But hold on, let me ask you guys a question. Before we move to the biggest story of the week, let me ask you guys a question. Who is more likely to turn it around this season? I'm going to start with you, Andy.
It's the Nets. It's got to be. They have more talent on that roster. I still believe in guys like Pierce and KG as far as motivating a team. And then you have Deron Williams, Brook Lopez, Joe Johnson, as where the Knicks really just have Carmelo Anthony and, as B. Austin would say, Earl out there doing whatever they want. And who knows when Tyson Chandler comes back. But even when he does, I don't have as much faith in Chandler as I do the guys in BK.
Okay, we shall see. B. Austin, what's your opinion?
I'm just going to echo what Andy said. It's got to be the Nets. Like, I don't believe in them as a true playoff contender, even if they get it together. But you can't have that roster and not be able to win games. Just, you can't. Even at this advanced age, those guys are going to turn it around to get some.
Okay. I mean, we shall see. Frank, we know that you are a Nets fan, so I know it's a dumb question to ask, but I have to ask you anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree only because they're without their best two players, so I think they have a better chance. I don't even know if they are going to turn it around. They might not, but I think they have a better chance than the Knicks.
You say both of them stink. All right, so before we get out of here, I have to ask you guys about the biggest story of the week, and it's not a dunk, it's not a streak that a team is on. It's one Derrick Rose going down once again with an injury. Frank, let's start right off with you. What do you think about Derrick Rose going down again, and what impact is it going to have on his team as well as his career?
I mean, the first thing I thought of is, it's just sad because the game of basketball is better with Derrick Rose. I mean, even the 12 games he was here, he was just electrifying. That's what he does on the court. But I think you can officially call him injury prone. I don't think that's an unfair assessment. When you're about to miss 2 full seasons, basically, of your career due to injury, I don't think it's unfair to call you injury prone. As far as the Bulls go, I'm curious how the Bulls respond because, as we saw earlier this season, they kind of went back to default mode with Derrick Rose back, where they just ran the team through him. So I'm curious how they respond. Do we see the Chicago Bulls like we saw last year, more ball movement, everybody getting involved, or do they just completely implode? This is one of the main reasons I thought they should have brought Nate Robinson back. I didn't understand why they just let him go because they needed kind of that backup plan, and I thought Nate Robinson did a great job.
He fit perfect with that team.
Yeah, but
B. Austin, what's your opinion on the Rose injury and what impact on himself as well as his team? You're on mute though, right?
He's got mime skills.
All right, well let's go to Andy. We'll come back to B. Austin. Andy, what do you think about Derrick Rose? Same questions.
I mean, yeah, Frank hits the nail on the head there. I think the injury-prone thing is now no question at this point. I mean, both his knees are banged up.
Sad.
I mean, it is, and I'm laughing. I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just it's very unfortunate, and I know the fantasy world is reeling out here right now in pain over Derrick Rose. I know I am, but it's bad, and the Bulls weren't playing that well. Let's face it. Before he went out, and now without Derrick Rose, they're going to have to get back to the way they were playing before. And we're not just talking Nate Robinson here. They lost Bellinelli too, who was another spark plug for them. Now you have Kirk Heinrich's going to have to shoulder some of that load, and I even hear him talking about trading Luol Deng more now. Not the Bulls necessarily, but the reports are coming now that this is going to be more of a reason for them to trade Luol Deng, and maybe they're just going to mail it in the rest of the season. I don't really know what they do. It's obvious that the Pacers are the big brothers now at this point, and I just it's tough break, but I mean it's the game, man.
My man Thibodeau is really earning his money over these last couple of years. B. Austin, what you have to say about it?
I'm going to say that, I overreacted like everybody else. I think that when I heard of the injury, the first thing I thought of was Brandon Roy. The second person I thought of was Michael Dickerson. And then I'm thinking, is this guy going down that path? Then I did a little research on what a torn meniscus really is and their path to recovering or getting him back on the court. And I really think that he can be fine from this. I think that just because of what we saw him go through with the original injury, everybody is just in panic mode because he is at his best at least a top 5 player in the league. So the concern is natural. I don't think it's really an overreaction because it's a natural concern for what we saw him go through. But with the injury that he has, there's a strong possibility he'll be back on the court between the months of January and February. Now, what does that mean for this season? It's a throwaway. And what does that mean for him? Okay, well, we know he and Reggie Rose and his team and handlers got together and said, we give Derrick as much time as Derrick needs to get healthy, so he could mail this season in. But reasonable reports suggest that he could recover from this within 60 to 90 days and be back for the season. So I don't think it's a permanent damage type of thing. I just wonder, when we're talking about Glass Joe and we're talking about him being injury prone, is it the way that he plays the game? Is it too taxing on his body? Because we're talking about a guy with the explosion and the quickness comparable. I don't think he's as quick as an Allen Iverson, but he's definitely he's almost that quick, and he's more explosive. And so when you're moving that fast and you're probably 20 pounds heavier, well, it's taxing on the joints. So the way he plays the game.
Only point I want to make is, D Rose is not going to let anybody rush him back. We might not see like 2015. We might not see him in like 2015, start of 2015 season.
Yeah, no, that's a real point though, Jimmy. What what we know he can return from versus what he will return.
And he don't care what none of y'all say about it.
Right. So you know, the Bulls moving forward have to understand that they know who they're dealing with. So is it time? First of all, even with Derrick Rose, that team wasn't a contender. I just want people to get that in there. With Derrick Rose, they didn't have enough scoring. They got rid of Nate. They're not a contender. They can't beat the Heat.
I mean, that's the other thing I'm curious about personally is that little storyline, because I feel like we really got past the whole thing last year of, you know, did he take too long to come back? It seemed like as soon as he was back, people just let that go, you know, as far as how long it took him to get back from his last injury. But, you know, if the prognosis says he should be back in 6 to 8 weeks,
Frank, people need a hero. People need a hero.
At that 6 week mark, I'm curious how it's going to be if Derrick Rose isn't still back when people say, oh, it takes 6 to 8 weeks. You know he's going to get that Dwight Howard soft treatment.
I'm about to return my Adidas shoes. I ain't playing basketball in Adidas anymore.
Derrick Rose could care less about what any of y'all say to him. Long as he's cool when he walks in Wells Fargo, what you guys say doesn't matter. Because my man is collecting some hefty checks to be sitting over there in his suit.
250 with 6 zeros behind it from Adidas, 90-something from the Bulls, and whoever else he's a brand ambassador for. My man is cool for the next 30 generations.
Yeah, for every hate article he gets, he's just going to buy a new suit and sport it to the
But you saw the commercial. He said if he lost it all that matters is basketball.
All that matters is basketball. All that matters is a really comfy, like, vibrating seat he can attach to that bench game. Because that's where he's sitting.
Anyway, gentlemen, man, so we want to see D Rose come back. B. Austin says January. We would love to see that. Do we think it's going to happen? Probably not. I mean, we'll see what happens with the Bulls. But before we get out of here, Andy, anything you're looking forward to this week?
I'm looking forward to that vacancy now in the Bulls' starting lineup. Orlando Magic is calling. We have Jameer Nelson available. You can have him.
You are a Magic fan, and since the first episode, you've been trying to trade Jameer. Like you're trying to get him.
I love Jameer. Listen, hear me out. You know, I'm a big Jameer fan, but it's time. The team's younger. It's time for him to go. I mean, I wish him well, but let him go somewhere where he can be useful.
I got you.
And maybe compete.
That's your biggest asset. B. Austin, anything you looking forward to this week?
I'm always looking forward to seeing the biggest beard in the business get busy. So James Harden, I'm gonna be watching a lot of Houston Rockets games. Hopefully the foot is mended. MCW, you know, hope get back in at full strength. I think, you know, we'll be able to show Frank up consistently. And
all right,
Portland,
Frank,
just continuing to watch Portland do their thing.
Rip City.
Your infatuation with the Blazers lately, man.
11-2. That's why.
11-2. They ball. Damian Lillard.
I hear you. Frank.
Personally, I'm looking forward to Brook Lopez coming back. He should be back this week at some point. I'm also looking for the Western Conference. See how they have a bunch of teams kind of in that 500 range. I'm trying to see if anybody separates themselves. Specifically the Pelicans. I'm looking for the Pelicans to step up a little bit.
Jimmy.
Pelicans. The Pelicans. Anyway,
Jimmy, let me tell you how bad it is in the bandwagoners with Portland. People are clamoring for Wesley Matthews to be on the All-Star ballot.
Wow, dude, lights out though.
Hey, when you're winning, that's what happens when you're winning. What I'm looking forward to, I want to see the Bulls play because Frank brought up a point about how when D Rose came back, it's like, yo, pass the ball to Will, like the old Fresh Prince show. Pass the ball to Will. Pass the ball to Will. I want to see if they get back to moving the ball around and playing team basketball. So that's actually what I'm looking forward to seeing. I want to see how the Bulls respond to their guy going down, you know. So as the season progresses, I just want to see if they get back to playing that basketball because they were playing great basketball last year without him. Not saying they were a better team without him, but I don't think, like B. Austin said, I don't think they were a championship team either way. But we'll see what happens, though. So this has been another episode of Court Vision. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Go check out the Sports Kings at sports-kings.com. They have the Pass the Pill segment, which is, you know, all about hoops. Check us out at warroomsports.com or warroomsportstv.com. And as we always say, don't accept mediocrity. Be steadfast in the war against ignorance, and we'll see you chumps on top.
Pass the ball to Will.
Don't be shaking your opponent's hands.
I still love you, J-Kid.
Shout out
to
Boogie.
Shaking your opponent's hands.
Kuwait, it's the war room with 5 nights at the round table. 5 Philly guys diversified and educated.